Recently, there has been renewed interest in Onision, and when I say renewed interest, we are not talking about the type that he wants. I mean, sure, he may like the clicks right now, but what he's looking down the barrel of, it is not fun. Now, when people are talking about the past with him, they're also examining the present, and they're talking about how he may be trying to manipulate the future. What I mean by that is simple. I mean that he may be preparing a mental defect or insanity defense, saying, hey, Your Honor, I wasn't capable, therefore I'm not culpable. Now, I found this to be interesting, and I wanted to follow up on it. So I wanted to do this two ways. Number one, I wanted to talk to somebody with a law background, so I talked to Hogue Law. They were very helpful. I want to really recommend their channel in this. Props to them. I will put a link in the description. But I wanted to see what this meant in generalities. How exactly would you define the insanity defense? Also, I have a mental health background, so let's pretend that he does win. He actually manages to put all of that together. What would he get? I mean, what prize is that? Because I'm telling you, with it, it's not all wine and roses. Oh no, people think you win something there. You definitely don't. So hey there. So today I want to return to that wonderful world of Onision. And if you're saying, who is Onision? Well, there are many an internet primer that will break this down for you. Now, I can cover this stuff too. If you want me to put together a video covering something like this, I can. Just ask for it in the descriptions. However, I would say tune to something like that. This is a 6-minute read. But essentially, what you're talking about is a guy that got famous for dancing around in a banana suit. Tosh picked him up, talked about that. When he got famous, he did all types of stuff that, well, may have broken the law. Now, in this recent coverage we're talking about in the last month or so, we've had people like Chris Hansen looking into them. And when you look at the views on this stuff, you're talking about over 1 million views on a live stream. That is absolutely insane. When you think about the people that are looking here, too, you know that law enforcement entities, they have to be combing through this stuff. And if there's enough pressure, they will definitely intervene. Now, in that, like I said, there have been a lot of people talking about him already prepping a defense, so I want to talk about that here. Before we get into that, though, if you like this kind of content, you want to help an umbrella out, help us with our interactions. That means subbing to the channel, and thank you so much for doing that. People have been doing that quite a bit, and I appreciate the heck out of it. Can't say that enough. Also, share videos, because knowledge is power, and you know what? People need to understand what kind of folks are out there. This guy, he operated with impunity for so long, and yeah, that cannot go unchallenged. Also, with interactions, you know, what drives these videos? That means commenting. That means liking. I mean, when you comment, you can just say interaction. That stuff, it pushes videos out there. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my spiel. So when we're talking about this defense, first of all, what we have to do is understand what it means. And that's why I reached out to Hogue Law here. They were very kind about it too. Again, they weren't really informed on Onision. That wasn't the point. The point was to understand insanity here. So this is the way they described it. I thought that this really helped out from a layman perspective. Insanity is usually described in applicable code as the inability to conform with the law at a mental level. Now, this can change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but that fits. Now, when you think about that too, what you're saying is this guy, when you look at his behavior, does that mean that he could not conform to the law? I mean, that's a question that a court itself would ask. And do you think he's playing that up enough? Now, Hogue Law goes on to describe in this too. Michigan might say, paraphrasing this, of course, insanity is when one suffers a mental disease or defect that a person lacks substantial capacity either to appreciate the nature of wrongfulness or to conform his or her conduct to the law. Now, with this, I mean, thinking about certain parts of it, would this person be able to appreciate the wrongfulness of their acts? I mean, with him, probably not. I think you could make an argument for that, but does he have the inability to conform his behavior to the law? There's another interesting question in that. Now, also, when you're thinking about this is an affirmative defense to whatever the person is accused of, which means that the court would find that the violation took place, but then the jurisdiction in question would say that the full power of the law should not be used because, well, insanity, mental defect. The guy, he couldn't help himself there. He can't conform to law. Again, in that, you would have to have this person admit to wrongdoing. They would have to admit to culpability. Would he allow that as well? I mean, he's played a lot of games with that, but would he get to the point where he thought in a court of law that that was his only legal option? That would also be an insane thing as well. Now, to bring such a defense, the defendant would usually, of course, have to submit to an examination and questioning as part of that adjudication. Now, that would be interesting too, because he would have to convince someone that's not a layman that he is mentally ill to the level, again, that he can't distinguish that rule of law and he can't conform himself to it. Now, if the defense is deemed the reason for acquittal, then also Hoke Law goes on to say that he believes most jurisdictions will require a commitment for evaluation and then perhaps longer. Now, it definitely helps in talking about what that would require. And like I said, I could understand people saying that these videos, they are trying to lay the groundworks for it. I would show you all of them too. But this guy is a notorious channel flagger. Not going to give him the material to do that because this is a conversation he should not be able to go out and profit from. No, he's already profited enough from the stuff he's brought down. But I mean, look at some of these pictures out there. Look at the way that he tries to showcase himself. Again, just look at those here. Now, if you could convince a mental health expert that this guy, he had problems, again, based beyond mental health issues. He definitely has some mental health issues. We could say that he has behavioral problems. That's possibly true. Maybe he's already been diagnosed with them. He definitely would be diagnosed with some personality disorders. If we could get him in there and actually diagnose him, then perhaps he would be given depression. Perhaps he would actually be talked about as, say, bipolar. You never really know until you sit down with him. But to say, again, incapable of conforming to, I don't know. I don't know there. I don't see that happening. If it did, however, when we're talking about him being committed, see, that's where you get into the interesting aspects of it. He doesn't have the money to make sure that he would be given the best treatment out there. His money, it would be burned up pretty quickly. He would end up in some state residence. And let me tell you, with those places, they are not places that you would want to be. You have noise all the time. And we're talking about screaming all the time. We're talking about people that just, they do things that, again, they don't conform to the reality that you or I agree exists. So you have to remember the type of people you would be around. They, again, are insane. And if you went in playing insanity, you might actually go insane there too. You also might be privy to violence. You could be attacked by people because, again, you have people that are checked in all the time to these places because they need to be stabilized. Under the law, stability basically means that you're going to medicate the fight out of people. That means that they can be returned to wherever they came from, or they can be put into housing. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff you would be privy to all the time. Also in this, you have it going even further. You would have to meet with someone quite a bit. And that person, they would actually have to document that you somehow had something change. You somehow were able to go in and, hey, now you can conform to the law. How are you going to get that to happen too? See, I've had this stuff doxed about me. I, in another life, was a mental health professional, and meaning I would meet with people in that, and some of these people would be offenders. Some of the things that they did, they would be horrific in nature. Some of the stories out there, you would not believe some of the things that people have gotten away with. But to convince a court, I don't know if an Onision that has recorded this much about him would have that mystery many people actually need. Sometimes less is more definitely works because you can buy into what people are doing. Again, this guy has documented so much about himself. It looks like manipulation. But in that, I mean, if you get a mental health provider that thinks you're playing games, what they'll do is they'll basically look at you and they never will want you to get out. They know that you have manipulated the system and that you are not paying that. And also, even if you're a person out there that they think is sick to that level, they're probably not going to sign off very easily and say, hey, I'm going to welcome you to the outside world. So, I mean, when you're thinking about that defense, maybe he's not going into the prison system, but he's going into another system that has its own issues. You may not be talking shower scenes out there, but the mental aspects to that, it will truly damage you in horrendous ways. Again, not saying that to take up for the guy here. This guy has definitely gone out of his way to do some pretty messed up stuff, but just to give you an idea of what's out there. I think we can continue this discussion. We could go further with it. And again, if people want to talk about all of the stuff that is noted with his past, I'm definitely open to that. Again, leave me comments on that. But I think this lays the groundwork for what we were talking about there. So what do you think about that? Do you think that all of these videos are him playing that game? Is he going beyond just playing up for clicks? Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Also, I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank you for participating. You make these endeavors possible. People like this guy here, they forgot that, and woe be it unto them. Because, again, hey, that's their problem. If they want to have their lives fall apart about it, hey, they can do that. Also, props to Hogue Law for definitely answering my questions. They didn't know me from Adam. They definitely helped out. Subscribe to their channel. And again, at the end of this, I want to thank you for participating. If you want to help out with interactions, that's great. But just being here, that helps out too. Ending, again, thank you. Appreciate you. We'll be doing this again soon. Thanks.